Today's Morphin Network video is sponsored by Ranger Stop and Pop, which is now August the 27th to the 29th, 2021 in Atlanta, Georgia. And Ranger Stop Convention, which is now November 11th to the 14th, 2021 in Orlando, Florida. Go to rangerstop.com for more info.
I was on the verge of a breakthrough when it all went wrong. Mesogod found me and put me back together again. He's a genius with cybernetic reconstruction.
Mr. Gaylyn, how are you doing, sir?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys.
How's New Zealand right now?
New Zealand is sunny. It's out of lockdowns. It's nice and warm. We're on a long weekend here at the moment, which is Auckland Anniversary Day, which is where I live in Auckland, New Zealand, which is the biggest city in New Zealand. And yes, it's great. You know, a nice place to be at this time in our history, if you know what I mean.
So hello everyone, welcome to a very special interview with the Morphin Network. We have Colonel Truman and the voice of Zeltrax, and basically he played a lot of characters in the Power Rangers franchise. Mr. James Gaylyn. Mr. Gaylyn, thank you so much for being our special guest.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's get this interview started. So, Mr. Gaylyn, how did you start with acting?
Totally by chance, Ryan. When I moved to New Zealand, I've been here 35 years, I guess. And when I moved here, they had a soap opera here called Close to Home. And me being I'm a singer, so I was performing, right? And one of the local magazines here interviewed me, and I didn't know anything about this TV show, but they were looking for a black actor to play the husband of one of the main stars on there, right? Which was centered around a family, this soap opera. And they read the interview in the magazine, and I got a call from the producer. And that is exactly how I got started in acting. And as they say, you get bitten by the acting bug, and that's exactly what happened to me. But it was a few years before I had another acting role. So I wanted to act so bad, after that, I started writing scripts centered around myself, right? But it just, the timing was wrong. So the next thing I did after that were commercials, which were great, you know, but I still want, and then I got a role, what was it? Hercules, I think it was. Hercules and Xena were filmed here as well. And then from there, it took off, and I've been doing it for years now.
Excellent.
Awesome. Going into this, I actually was watching Xena Warrior Princess recently, and I saw the episode where you were in it. You were with Petricles in that episode? Yes.
Petricles. Yeah, I remember that episode very well.
Awesome.
The first time I worked with Lucy Lawless, right? I've done work with her since then as well. That was a bit of fun to do. I like those shows, Xena and Hercules. I played on Hercules. I played a centaur, which was a lot of fun. And so, yeah.
Aside from acting, how did you get started with voice acting?
I was hired once again to do commercials. I started in TV commercials as doing voiceovers, and once again, I just got a call. Someone heard me. I got a call from the producers, and I started doing other voices for like corporate events, and various different technologies. And then all of a sudden, Power Rangers came along, and I've done so many voices on Power Rangers, and then that's really how I got started doing voiceovers. I was the voice of Burger King down here for 3 years. And, yeah, so, you know, it was massive. Yeah. When they used my voice, the sales went up. So it was, must have been doing something right.
Burger King right now.
Oh, man.
There's actually one 2 blocks away from me, too.
Hey, ask me if they need a new voice.
Oh, definitely will. Definitely will.
If not, I'm pretty sure Wendy's If not, I'm pretty sure Wendy's will gladly take you.
Or a McDonald's.
or
no,
Del
no,
Taco.
not I'll go Wendy's.
Speaking of Power Rangers, Mr. Gaylyn, how did you start working for this long-running franchise? Like,
Good question. How did I start with Power Rangers? Once again, it was with the voices, and then I did a few minor voices, and then along came Zeltrax, right? And what happened with Zeltrax? I have a home studio, my recording studio, and what happened with Zeltrax was they sent out the call for the auditions for Zeltrax, but I was late. I was on a film shoot, and when I got home, I got the email, but it was the auditions were like 2 days before that the deadline had ended. But somehow I rang my agent and I said, look, I know I can do this voice, but they stopped recording in the studio. I said, well, I got my own studio. So I recorded the voice in my studio, took it to a friend of mine who has an even bigger studio. He mastered it for me and sent it to my agent. They sent it to Disney, and boom, I got the voice the very next day. So Zeltrax was my first major voiceover role, right? And yeah, and then from there, other voiceovers came with monsters and so forth and so on. Yeah, so that's how it kind of started.
Continuing on with Zeltrax, Zeltrax is one of the coolest villains. He was been Power Rangers, like he was in Dino Thunder, he was in SPD. So my question is, how did you find the voice of Zeltrax?
Well, what happened is I just lowered my voice way down here, and they manipulated that. Not a lot. It's still my voice, but they just made it even deeper and more, you know, monsterish. And so it wasn't hard. You know, I have a deep voice anyway, so I just made it deeper, and then they took it and worked with it from there. So it's, you know, it was fairly easy. It wasn't It wasn't rocket science, you know.
Yeah,
What was really funny about it is that like when I first heard Zeltrax like as going from a kid to a teenager, as a teenager I always thought it was Kevin Michael Richardson. But then once I saw RPM, I'm like, wait, that sounds like, yeah, it's the same guy who did Zeltrax. That's actually pretty cool. So as a teenager, I always got your voice confused with Kevin Michael Richards.
Yeah. Well, once people saw me as Colonel Truman, I mean, I have a very distinctive voice, so you know, like yourself, most people would have put the face to the name or vice versa, right? So
yeah,
that's the voice of Zeltrax. So that's what he looks like. Blah blah blah.
Now speaking of Colonel Truman, can you tell us your experience while playing Colonel Truman in Power Rangers RPM?
Oh, let me tell you, I absolutely loved playing that character. To this day, it stands as one of my favorite characters to play because it was a lot of fun, a great cast to work with in the Rangers, and Dr. K and so forth. I had the director just gave me, you know, the creative license to make Colonel Truman as I felt he should be. Right, and I always felt that he should be very authoritative. Didn't do a lot of smiling and so forth. So I just took it in that direction, in a relationship with his sons, particularly Scott. Right, and that gave me a lot to work with. Right, and I looked forward to every single episode that we filmed. It was just great. Yeah, I loved it. You know, once upon a time they talked about, and this is after the series ended. They talked about doing a movie on RPM. It never came to fruition. But oh boy, would I have loved to have done that, you know. And something else that was supposed to happen that didn't happen was when Eddie Gazelian, who was the executive producer in the beginning and the writer, great guy, very talented man, when they were doing the backstories of everyone, he was supposed to have done a backstory of Colonel Truman. And he was just started working on that, and then he lost the job, and another executive producer came in, and it kind of went by the wayside. But I would have loved to have seen the young Colonel Truman for a start, who would have played Colonel Truman as a young guy, and what they would have done with his backstory, you know, what he would have been like in his younger years. But that never happened, so.
Hopefully in the comic books they could. They actually do go in depth in more of your guys' characters in the comic book.
Seriously, there's a comic book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Of RPM?
Mm-hmm.
To catch up to speed, Boom Studios started working on Power Rangers comic books like 5 years ago, and at one point they did go into the RPM universe, or as I like to call Earth 2 Power Rangers.
Right. Is that right? I had no idea. So where do I find this comic book? Because it'd be interesting to have a look.
They're available in comic stores, and there's another way I can't say it on here, but I can show you.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you email it to me or something?
Yes,
or?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So Boom Studios, if you see this, Mr. Gaylyn wants a comic book, especially the RPM series. So
there you go. I love it.
Hasbro, look at me, Hasbro. You have enough money from Transformers. Let's make this RPM Union movie happen. Come on now.
Let's make it. Love it. Wonderful. Thank you guys for letting me know.
Going back into Colonel Truman. Now, Colonel Truman made an appearance in the latest season of Power Rangers Beast Morphers. What was it like returning to Power Rangers after all these years, from RPM all the way to Beast Morphers?
Well, before that, I did 2 episodes in the series before Beast Morphers, where I played Shelby's dad, right? So that was the first one I did after all those years. That I really, really loved because it was comedic, right? So I got to use a few of my comedic chops, right? And it was different, and it was just so much fun to do. The cameo in Beast Morphers, totally unexpected, but still a lot of fun to do. And what I liked about it, Colonel Truman had a completely different uniform on, right? but I still kind of look similar, same, maybe just a little bit older, but and it was a pleasure to do, and that cast was great as well. So I was really, when I got the call to do that, I was really excited to do it. So yeah, I jumped at the chance.
When I first saw you again as Shelby's dad, I was like, hey, this is the guy from RPM. Because I watched you when I was still in elementary school, and then as a college kid that time, I was like, oh shoot, it's actually him, it's Colonel Truman. And what's funny is after that, I actually did eat ice cream. I actually did go and buy ice cream.
Oh, yeah, 21 flavors.
I would say, my bad, I meant Colonel Truman coming back for Beast Morphers, but I would say watching Colonel Truman and Devin, who is now the head of Grid Battle Force, was a very powerful moment in Power Rangers. I wish there was a picture of it, because when I saw it, I'm like,
yeah,
this is what dreams are made of right here. When a colonel and another colonel, it was amazing. It was a very amazing moment in Power Rangers.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought so too. It was a really nice connection.
So our next question is actually from one of our members. He actually loves you in a certain film called Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior.
Yeah.
So can you tell us your experience while filming Wendy Wu?
Fun. I'll tell you a very interesting story about that, right? So I used to do martial arts. This is years ago, right? And I just let it go for whatever reasons. Right? I just stopped practicing martial arts. I still know a few things, but anyway. So cut to the audition for Wendy Wu and my character, Mr. Medina. So I go to the audition, and the casting director said, "So you need to do some, probably need to do a little martial arts in this movie. So can you do anything that looks martial arty?" Right? I said, "Yeah, sure. I used to do martial arts. I'll do a jump kick for you." Now, I hadn't warmed up for this. Okay, I had no idea this was coming. But if I wanted to roll, I had to be able to, because they wanted to see. So anyway, I did this jump kick and I swung out my leg, full force, and pulled my hamstring muscle like you would not believe. I mean, I thought my leg had been pulled off. Anyway, I didn't want to show this, so I landed in a lot of pain, right? And the casting director said, "Oh, that looked fantastic. Can we record it now?" I thought, oh my God, you didn't record that? But I'm standing there in tremendous pain, but I'm trying to look cool, and I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." And I jumped on the other leg. It wasn't as spectacular as the first one. And she recorded it, and she said, "Oh, great, thanks." And I tried to walk out as normal as possible. When I got in the hallway, oh my God, I limped to the car. And anyway, if I hadn't gotten that road, I would have been really pissed off. But on my way home, I stopped by, limped into a pharmacy here, and they gave me this brace, right? Fortunately, that shoot didn't start for 3 weeks. So I had 3 weeks to recover. And in the movie, there was no jump kicks, right? It was all this, and I was the tiger and all that. No leg moving, no feet, just all hands and fists, right? I thought, well, I didn't have to do that to begin with. I should have just went, in the audition. So, but anyway, what was the actress's name?
Brenda Song?
Yes, lovely young woman and a great actor. She was so easy to work with, funny, friendly, just lovely person. In fact, everyone was easy to work with. Had a lot of fun on that shoot. And I really liked the movie too. So that was my experience with Wendy Wu.
What's cool about that movie too is like you actually had like former Power Ranger actors in that show, in that movie too. That's what I noticed when I was a kid.
Former what, sorry?
Former Power Ranger actors in that movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, everyone was really cool to work with, man, and I'd do that again as well. She's doing pretty well now. She was Brenda Song.
Yes, she's currently I think doing Christmas movies now in Hallmark. I think. Yeah, she's still doing really well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, lovely young woman.
Did you ever expect for Power Rangers, the franchise as a whole, to get this big, to become like a global conglomerate?
Well, when I came along, I thought it already was. I mean, I don't ever seen a couple of episodes of Power Rangers. Here in New Zealand, it was playing all those years ago. But interestingly enough, we had a politician who was in power here who censored the show because she thought it was too violent with the weapons and so, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But I didn't really know that much about Power Rangers, so it didn't bother me. My kids didn't watch it because, like I say, by the time I entered Power Rangers world, I assumed it was already massive. So I suppose it's become even more. I know it's changed hands 2 or 3 times, right? So I suppose it's nice to see it's still going, right? By the way, how did the Power Rangers movie go? Was that successful?
Honestly, it did well, positively for reception wise, but box office it flopped. Like
Yeah.
bad.
Right.
Box office really bad. It was
Yeah,
supposed
RPM?
yeah, see?
Lionsgate. Why didn't you call up Queens, man? Lionsgate.
It's
Come on.
Paramount. It's Paramount now.
Oh, and Paramount. Oh, Paramount.
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 Yeah.
Yo, you could have just got him. You could have delayed the movie, just like you delayed the Sonic movie, and you could have got
There you
James
go.
Gaylyn. The
There
movie
you
would have
go.
been a wrap. Just saying.
Absolutely. It's done, man.
But no, like it was good, but yeah, it flopped. It was kind of the same vein where Blade Runner and like John Carpenter's The Thing where it had positive reception, but because of
Right.
other movies that came out around the time, the movie didn't get the numbers it needed.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and also
No,
because
that
of
was
marketing too. Marketing was not really good for the movie. Yeah.
I wonder why. I mean, what's the point when you think about it? Have you guys ever been to Comic-Con?
Yes.
Yes.
Always. And plus, I didn't know you knew this. We're actually sponsored by actually 2 cons. If you look at the over here in the top, where you're stopping and
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
there's also the big con, Morphicon in LA. What's funny is I actually live 10 minutes away from the convention center. So
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
besides your question for cons, yes, we've been going to cons a lot, and hopefully in the future when COVID does quiet down and stuff that happens, we can see you in a future con. And
Nice.
I know a lot of fans would love to see you too, because they actually
I-
love your character. That I'm
That
actually.
would be awesome. I'd be there like a shot. Boom. I'm there.
So, Mikey, Ranger Stop, boss, see this?
Scott Zillner, Morphicon 2022. He's right here.
He's right here. He's
Call
there.
him. Email him. Use AIM. You use AOL. I don't care. MySpace, Friendster. He's right right here. Right here. Call him up. Right here. We need
Oh, do you have any smart advice to any actor or actress that wants to be in industry?
It's a tough industry, but if you can get in there, I mean, it depends on what you want to enter the industry for. If you just want to enter it to just make money, I mean, you can do that, but that makes things a lot tougher. If you want to, because the work really is few and far between, unless you become very popular or in demand and so forth. And even then, you can have long periods of, no work. Right. So it's good to have a backup, a backstop. For me, that's music. I was in the music industry first, and I still am in the music industry. So when work is quiet, like it was, like I'm really busy right now because we have a lot of productions coming down here from America, and we're here now filming, so I'm really busy. But for a year, when the lockdowns first started here, there was no work, right? And then as they gradually started to open, I was able to get back to my gigs and performances and studio work. So as an actor, if you want to get into it, you should do it for the love of it, right? Not for the money. And the money is really a bonus. And if you can, it's a tough business, but it's a lot of fun. And you seriously, I think, unless you're naturally gifted, consider getting some training. Some acting classes would help.
That's right, guys. Go learn from school, from the professional himself.
So, Mr. Gaylyn, with everything going on, do you have any upcoming projects that you can tell your fans out there?
I can't tell you about them.
There we go. Good answer.
I could, but then I'd have to kill you. I'd have to send 2 missiles to your residences. Boom, boom.
It's gonna be the scene from The Ring. Just
yeah, when we do these particularly big projects like I'm working on now, you have to sign non-disclosure agreements. So I can't even tell you the title of them. Right? I would love to be able to do that, but I mean, even we don't get the title immediately, right? They give us the working title, and then you just get little bits at a time, so the secret doesn't get out until the very last moment, right? So I would love to, but I tell you what, I think once we're finished shooting, it should be okay to let you know at least the titles of the movies, what I'm in. So yeah.
Excellent.
And so check with me in about 3 months.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, guys, well, thank you for your patience. And Mr. Gaylyn, you have some fans actually want to ask you some questions on this chat. Are you ready for them?
Sure. Fire away.
First off, let's see some greetings. So, Edward Sanchez says, hello, Colonel Truman. Hello, Edward.
Hello, Edward. How are you?
Aaron Gelves, sorry about your name. Hi, how much time did you spend with the cast of SPD and in the Storm when you shot with them? Did you have a good time? Greetings.
Let me just think back. It's a while ago. Yeah, I had a great time with the cast. It was fun playing that role. This powerful guy who could conjure up things and so forth and so on. Yes, it was a long time ago. Yes, I really did enjoy working with that cast. Absolutely. And yeah, it was awesome.
Brown says, hi, you're the Stanley of New Zealand seasons. Oh my gosh. Basically, he's saying you cameo in almost every Power Rangers season. Or like, I don't know.
At some point, you have popped up in Power Rangers.
Is that right? Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Storm, SPD, Dino Thunder as well. I think Operation Overdrive at one point you popped in. Dino Charge, and Morphers.
Tudakis, hi from Miami, Florida. James, you're an incredible actor in Power Rangers history. I like you. Aw.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. Thank you, Timothy. Awesome.
Alejandra Cavaso says, me gusta los Power Rangers de todas las temporadas.
Okay. I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure it's a compliment, so thanks.
It is. I actually explain it. You said he liked you, a lot.
Okay, nice.
Oh my gosh. Oh, let's see, guys. So apparently Mitch is asking if you can make your Zeltrax voice. Finally, I am revived. I will have my revenge.
So can you make Zeltrax voice? He wants me to say this.
Yeah.
Finally, I am revived. I will have my revenge. Ha 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 ha
ha! Ryan, before we go to the next question, I actually had a couple of questions for Mr. Gaylyn. So, you were, aside from Power Rangers, you were also in Eddie's $1 Million Cookout, as well as Bridge to Terabithia. Did you work? Did you work with Nathan Gaines while you're on Bridge of Terabithia?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know Nathan very, very well. And actually, his name is Latham.
Latham, my bad, Latham.
Yeah, and he's here in New Zealand. He doesn't live here. He actually lives in the States, but they're here. They come here like 2 or 3 times a year. And I was just in Wellington the other day with another actor on this film we're working on, and he's also even a closer friend with Latham. So yes, I did. Latham's a great actor and a really, really nice man.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
And his wife was a great actor too.
Yes. Latham is a great guy. When you actually interviewed him last year, he was so awesome. I love the guy so much.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
His joke on Mezagog's name still makes me crack up.
I know. Yeah.
What's the joke?
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, what was it?
He says that that Mezagog, the name itself sounds like a medicine you put on like herpes or something like that.
Oh god.
That was like last night.
Also,
he's a cool guy.
Also, James, you were also in season 2 of Legend of the Seeker. What was it like being on that show?
Fantastic! I had such a wonderful time in that series. I did two episodes, as you know, as Commander Trimac. I got to ride a horse, and I got, for the first time in any roles I've ever played, I got killed twice. And it was awesome. It really, really was. I just had so much fun putting on that costume, playing this commander. You know, when as an actor, the greatest joy that you get is when you arrive on set, put your costume on, and step onto the set, right, with the other actors who also have their costumes on. And suddenly you're in a different world, whatever world that may be at the time. And that is just one of the most challenging, but it's also a wonderful, wonderful, mighty experience, right? And so playing Commander Trimac in Legend of the Seeker was just an awesome experience because of the time it was set in. And I got to lead all these soldiers, you know, and who I was to the lead characters, right? In my position, it was just wonderful.
Awesome.
I wanted to do another couple of episodes, but he got killed twice. That wasn't going to happen again.
So one of our good friends, Cody Blight, says he wants to say hi to you and tell him hope you're doing well. He's actually a big fan of you.
Sure. Hello. What's his name again?
Cody Blight.
Cody. Hello, Cody.
What Rangers would be on your Power Rangers team? Oh, this is a good one.
What Rangers would be on the ones I had in RPM? They're the only ones I know. So, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. I've never seen another Power Rangers season other than RPM because I didn't know much about Power Rangers, and being the age I am, you can get it right. But RPM, I saw every episode. Why? Because when we finished filming the episodes, I would go watch them, so I know what's coming in the next episode, and so forth and so on. Right? So I've seen every single episode of RPM. So if I had to choose which Power Rangers would be on my team in a new world, I would choose the ones I've worked with. Right? But that wouldn't be my choice anyway, of course. But yeah, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm being honest.
It's good. Stick with the team. Stick with the team that you commanded. Yep.
The team that worked, right?
You never left. You never left the team. You didn't switch teams. You didn't go to another team. You stayed with it.
Absolutely. Yes. Good man.
Oh, here's a question. Timmy Dacus, how would you feel if they had Scott's dad and Shelby's dad see each other from different dimensions?
Well, that would be kind of hard it would be take two of me. And but I mean, mind you, with technology, they can do that today, right? Yeah, that would be an interesting concept. So who knows? Maybe they'll do that one day. I doubt it, but you never know.
It'd be like Double Impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's right, and that's not the only one either.
Funny enough, I have this theory, and someone else made this theory that General Truman and Shelby's dad are the exact same person, but from different Earths.
I've read that somewhere. I can't remember where I read it. Yeah. And you know, Shelby's dad was no, I can't put it any better than that. That's somewhere.
Can you sing first, Mr. King? Do your music back.
You have to pay me for that now, okay, all right? You can hear me singing anytime on YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh. One more question. Carthmish Massacre, have you watched your Santa counterpart before you did RPM?
I haven't watched Go On Enough.
But the play is your truck was based on was called.
I know,
yeah.
My what do they call that?
RV?
Yeah, my RV. That was my thing, man. It was old fashioned, but hey, it worked, right? I love how Scott handled that, right? It's my dad. No, it was I think Scott said this belongs to my dad and it's his favorite thing in the world, so don't damage it. Dr. K said, oh, so yesterday or yesteryear or something, or old school. You know, I thought, okay. Yeah.
Well, hey, at least on the bright side, thank you for coming back for Beast Morphers. Like that, when you and Actress Quick Dr. K came back, we actually were like, oh my gosh, you came back. It
Really?
came out. I was still a kid when RPM showed, and as an adult, like, oh, they did it.
Yeah. No, again, it was my pleasure to come back.
Well, let's do a few more, guys. James, your character was the cool and badass one in RPM, which also could be badass in Power Rangers. Do you think your character could be a Power Ranger in a different universe?
Let me read that again.
Oh.
Can you get that out?
Do you think your character could be a Power Ranger in a different universe?
Unless they want an older Power Ranger. Probably not.
I mean, they did do it for Dino Charge. An old guy played the Purple Ranger.
Seriously?
Yeah, until he gave his powers to the younger person. So, well,
hey, look, that's cool. If they can do that, I'm still young-ish, fit. So, hey, it's on. If they want to do that, I'm all for it.
Hasbro, listen to me, Hasbro. If you ever make a General Truman prequel, have him be the original Racer Series 1 Red Ranger. I'm just saying. Yeah, because keep in mind, Dr. K was working on the stuff right after, I'm gonna say Skynet, the Vengeance virus attacked. Yeah. So I'm like, can we get a prequel where General Truman is John Connor in the entire wasteland and becomes Ranger Series Red? I'm just saying.
All right, give me a call. Give me a call when that happens.
Balls in your court, Hasbro.
There you go. Hope you're listening, Hasbro.
One of our members. How was the audition process? What was the audition process like for you? I guess you're Power Rangers, so
it's hard to describe because they're all different. You know, it depends on what I'm auditioning for. I didn't have to audition for Beast Morphers. I just got the call. They asked me to come back. I did have to audition for, even though the role was already kind of mine before I auditioned, but they just wanted to see me. Or the executive producer knew who I was for. The Shelby's dad. Right? Now, originally, they had Shelby, so the audition, Shelby's dad was supposed to be singing, right? So in the audition, I had to sing. which of course it was no problem. Da, 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 da. I can't remember the right. I can't remember the what the song was about, but anyway. And I had to do a little bit of a dance and then do some comedy things. But it wasn't a challenge at all because that's what I do, right? So I don't get nervous in auditions. I just make sure I'm well prepared, right? When I go in, like every other actor, hopefully. And, and go do what I do and try to bring something to a little different than I think someone else will bring to that character who's also auditioning for that character, that role. So I just try to think of something that they may not think of doing, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the process is relatively easy, really. It's just preparation.
Favorite line saying to Scrozzle, "Don't call me buddy." Oh, from Beast Morphers. So you saying to Campbell, "Don't be my buddy." Love you, Campbell.
I thought that was great how they had us walk in without. You knew someone was behind Scrozzle, right? But you didn't see me at first. It was really hard because I'm taller than he is, right? So I had to really, really duck down behind him and try to follow his movements so I wouldn't be seen. And then until the right time, right? So that was fun.
We'll do one more question, guys. What color Ranger would you be?
Red.
Thank you.
He answered Ranger, okay?
He is the original Racer Series Red. And the people that Hasbro, once again, balls in your court, Hasbro, that Hasbro should write. Colonel Truman is pretty much John Connor ain't the entire wasteland. Just saying.
Yeah.
Once again, Hasbro, it's in your court.
We got one more
question. That, man. Give him a call.
Yes.
Find out who you need to speak to there.
We got one more question. One show here, so it's also from my cousin. What was it like working with Eka Darville, your son?
Oh, Eka was fantastic. Smart, a martial artist within his own right, and a very good one. I mean, he did all his own stunts, right? Very, very intelligent young man. Funny as all outdoors. But a serious act, and he's done really well for himself. Mm-hmm. Several of them have. Eka, Rose MacGyver. Oh God, what was her name? The one who played Tania 7. What was her name?
Adelaide Kane.
Adelaide. He had a series. Is that still going or?
Teen Wolf, it's done. She was in the Purge movie though. That's
Ah, okay.
But I know what series it was. Teen Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was great. But anyway, back to Eka. Yeah, he was a fantastic actor, and we became really close. We had some really funny moments. I can't tell you about them, right? Particularly one particular moment, but we had some really funny moments together, Eka and I. But all the Power Rangers were great. But Eka and I, we had a lot of conversation, and also Hicks, right? Corporal Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
He and I shared a trailer once, and we just had he's just a really funny guy that we got on really, really well.
Yeah. Well, looks like this is it. All right, guys, thank you so much for being part of the special interview. Thank you, Mr. Gaylyn, for being our special guest.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. That was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Nice to meet you guys.
Before we end this broadcast, Mr. Gaylyn, is there where can you follow you and social media? Or we have one?
I'm on Facebook, right? As James Gaylyn. I really don't do that much social media. I'm not Twitter. I'm not any of those. But I am you can find me on Facebook. Absolutely.
My partner, Leo, where can you find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at @thereckless_fox. My YouTube channel, Reckless Fox, and you can find all my latest game content on twitch.tv/RecklessFox. If you want more content, myself and a couple other members of the Morphin Network, we do our own video game podcast every weekend. You can find us on SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Just type in the Scruckle Game Podcast. And Ryan, where can they find you?
Instagram, DancerBoy7. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram and Twitter. And please follow us at Little Bit Nerdy, which I write articles for. And this video is sponsored by our sponsors, Ranger Stop and Pop and Ranger Stop Orlando. They're all over in the top.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Man, that was absolutely awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you for asking me to do this. I was really excited to do it, and I was really looking forward to doing it. So thank you.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and we'll do a goodbye wave. Bye, guys.